The Daredevil suit that you just saw was made in only 3 days because I had a Halloween party to attend and I didn't have a costume, so I made the entire suit in that time frame using simple materials, a 3D printer, and clothes that I already had, but the first step was to come up with a basic sketch of what I wanted the suit to look like, taking inspiration from the movies, comics, and art that I found on Instagram. This is kind of how it turned out, but now it is time to actually see how I made the suit. The very first thing I did was 3D print the helmet. The file is from do3d.com and it is the Born Again Season 2 file. I chose this helmet because of the texture. It's cool, but it also allows me to not really have to sand down on the helmet, which is great for the time constraints of this project. But the helmet did come in 2 pieces, which means that I have to put magnets in the back using hot glue and super glue. I use both just to ensure that they're not going to pop out, because using one or the other in the past has definitely led to them coming out of their slots over time. But specifically for this project, I'm using 6x2 neodymium magnets that I found off of Amazon, and I start with the hot glue first just to kind of get them into place quickly, and then I'll go around each of the slots with super glue to fully secure them into place. I had to spend a little bit of time making sure that the glue was fully dry before testing the back plate, but after that happened, it was perfect and very clean, honestly. I would clean up the inside where there's a little bit of drooping, but I wasn't super worried about it because you'll never see it anyways. I then put on the helmet just to test the fit, because digitally scaling and actually having it fit your head are 2 different things, but it worked out. As said before, most of the helmet is covered in texture, but the horns actually are smooth and meant to look smooth, so I sanded them down with 60 grit sandpaper, and then I sprayed the entire helmet with Rust-Oleum's 2-in-1 filler primer just to fill in the layer lines of the horns. I had to let the helmet dry, so while it is drying, let's take a look at the clothes and everything else that I gathered for the rest of the suit based off of my sketches. I already had these black pair of pants that kind of looked tactical, so I just used those. Conveniently enough, my mom had a pair of black motorcycle boots that were also perfect. I did have to go to a thrift store to get this black belt though. And for the shirt, yet again, I already had a black shirt that worked perfectly, so it worked out. Finally, these pair of black gloves that I got for $2. Some of the inspiration for the suit is the black homemade suit that Daredevil wears in the comics and in the Netflix series, but with a classic spin on it, which means that it does need the double Ds. So I traced them onto craft foam and cut it out using an X-Acto knife. I then used a lighter to kind of weather the foam while also sealing it, and using silver acrylic paint to weather the edges to make it look kind of chipped and battle damaged, as if he was actually in a fight. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing what I did next to attach the double Ds to the shirt, because it can hurt if you don't do it right, and I don't really think there is a right way to do it. I'm just lucky or stupid enough not to care, but I use hot glue while wearing the shirt and just go around the edges with the glue, trying to make sure to not use too much so it doesn't pudge out over the edges when you stick it on. But yet again, there's gotta be a better way to do this. I'm just doing this because I'm dumb. But second degree burns aside, the double Ds were now on the chest and it looks more like a classic Daredevil. Since I'm taking inspiration from the homemade black suit from the comics and the show, I do want the white ropes around the hands, so that's exactly what I got, was just a roll of white rope that I go on to wrap around and tie to my hands. But I am going to use some red acrylic paint and just a foam brush to kind of dirty it up and make it look bloody, like he's been hitting on people. Yet again, it is not real blood, just to put that out as a disclaimer. It's just a prop and cosplay. Please, YouTube, do not ban me. I went kind of random with the paint, but I think it turned out pretty good. But moving back to the helmet, I put Bondo over the horned areas just to further smooth it out, and then I sand it down with sandpaper. It was also at this time using extra black fabric that I sewed together a head sock to connect the helmet to the shirt. I'm no expert sewer, but I just used my Singer sewing machine trying to go slow around the edges, and it's not exactly like I created a perfect sewing pattern to begin with. I just cut out a shape that I think would match my head, and it ended up working out. There's definitely a lot better tutorials out there on how to sew, and I'm learning myself with every project, getting better and better. But I would just say take your time and try not to stab yourself with the sewing needle, because I can't imagine that doesn't feel good. I know I've poked myself a couple times. Miraculously, it turned out pretty good and form-fitting around my neck, and it was exactly what I needed to connect the helmet to the rest of the shirt. Finally, I used a nice matte black paint from Rust-Oleum to coat the rest of the helmet black, and I made sure to just go in even coats, staying an even distance away, and it turned out pretty good, especially when the helmet is dry. You can see the matte finish that I was going for. But nobody wants to see Daredevil's eyes, so I had to install the red tinted lenses into each side of the helmet, and to do that I ordered red window tint off of Amazon. You can get a giant roll for like $8 I believe, so it's pretty much a steal in my opinion, but using plastic from my soda bottles actually that I was drinking in the process of making the suit, I tinted the plastic and cut the lenses into shape. In my sketches of the suit I did in the beginning, I also included his billy clubs that are strapped to his legs, so I had to make those next. The files are also from Do3D, and they come with loops on the back, so I got 2 belts from the same thrift store so that I could tie it around my leg. It's kind of tight when I wear it, but it's not bad. The billy clubs actually come in separate parts, making it easier to paint, because the textured parts don't really need sanding at all, which means that I could go in with a red Rust-Oleum paint to just paint them right away without any priming. I painted the holster matte black right away because I didn't really need it to be a smooth texture, especially because I knew I was going to dirty it up anyways. Once the holster is dried, I went in with silver acrylic paint and a paintbrush, just going around all the major edges, brushing in the silver to make it look like it was worn down metal, and I think it turned out pretty good for what I was going for. Really, the only part of the billy club that needed any sanding or preparation before paint was the edges of the billy clubs that are meant to be a nice silver finish. So using 60 grit sandpaper, I sanded down all the edges of the tops of the billy clubs, just making sure to knock down as much layer lines as possible, but I'll also go in with Rust-Oleum's 2-in-1 filler primer to further smooth it down, and I'll do that about 2 times using 220 grit sandpaper in between each coat of primer. Once the priming stage was done, I used a matte black paint that I then sanded down so I could go in with the final coat of Rust-Oleum's metallic spray paint, and for a spray can, this actually turns out pretty cool looking, and I can super glue them to the rest of the billy clubs, meaning that the billy clubs and the holster are now finished, and these are probably my favorite part of the suit. At this point, I was done with this version of the suit, but I wanted to see what a more red-inspired look would look like, so I sketched up this version with a red hoodie and using a red helmet that I had previously made to this project. The red hoodie was actually one of the most expensive things I bought for the project. It was $17 at Hobby Lobby because it's super hard to find just base color clothes with no brandings or logos, so I kind of had to go out of my way to get this. But I cut the sleeves off and then I masked off the shape of the double D's using frog tape so that I could go in with acrylic black paint, really smudging in the paint to the shirt so it kind of dyes it almost, because I don't really want any peeling to happen, and so far as of editing this video, it has not peeled off at all, and it's actually a hoodie that I might end up wearing outside of wearing the costume. But I peeled all the tape off and you can see the double D's turned out pretty good. I wanted them to look dirty and smudged on purpose. It was finally at this point in time that the suit was done, both versions, the red and black. Having the shirts, pants, gloves, everything just laid out on the table, it's really cool to see, and I haven't really found a good place to store the suit as of editing this video, but that's not the point. The point is just to show you how cool everything is before I actually try it on. I'm super happy with how everything turned out, but it is now time to put on the suit and become the devil of Hell's Kitchen. hope those glamour shots were pretty cool, but I love this thing, man. Like, I'm really getting into Daredevil more in the comic books. I watched the show. I'm super happy that I could do this as my Halloween costume in such a short time frame because I had about 3 days, like said, and I feel like I didn't do half bad, especially with the details, like the billy clubs, the red, and the metal pieces. They're not metal, just painted to look like metal. The helmet, and even getting to kind of do some alternate styles and looks and getting to pick what I think would look best, be the most comfortable, and also considering the weather, the hoodie one might be the way to go. It might not be. I haven't really decided, but Halloween is tomorrow, and I'm going to go to a party dressed as Daredevil, so I'm super stoked that it turned out the way it did, and I definitely do have an idea for a completely new Daredevil suit that would be a different version, let's just say, and a different concept behind the whole thing. This I was definitely going for a homemade look because of the time frame. It's just easier to do that. But also I like homemade looking suits, and it's kind of in line with my homemade Spider-Man suit I did in the previous video. So it's almost like a series of the Marvel superheroes, but if they made their costumes at home or not as high-tech as some of the movies and TV shows. Other than that, this is the end of the video, and I just wanted to say thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions of what I should make, leave it down in the comments below. Other than that, Daredevil signing out. I gotta go beat up Fisk and watch Foggy get murked by Bullseye. So, I'll see y'all later.